Welcome back to another episode of Paranormal Bad Bitches. And today we are going over the Winchester House. Now, if you don't know what the Winchester Mystery House is, then you're in for one hell of a podcast. So, we're going to go over the history of the Winchesters first, and then we'll go into the history of the house a little bit more. It's kind of based on a timeline. It kind of goes over the generic history of the people who owned it and the house itself, and then we go through everything else. Now, it's not going to be a very long video today, simply just because unless you're at the Winchester, there really isn't a lot to go over. Okay, so William Winchester. He was born in 1837 in Baltimore, Maryland, and he was the only son of Oliver Winchester, making him the heir to the Winchester repeating arms fortune and the very popular Winchester guns. Now, Sarah Lockwood was born in 1839 in New Haven, Connecticut. And September 30th of 1862, William and Sarah got married and 4 years later gave birth to their only child, Annie Parday Winchester, on July 12th of 1866. Annie would later die because of childhood illness, unfortunately, and it took quite a toll on Sarah. In 1880, Oliver Winchester died, leaving the Winchester Company in the care of his only living son, who was severely ill, and he had tuberculosis and predicted to soon take his life. And as predicted, William Winchester ended up dying from tuberculosis only 3 months after his father had died. Now, after the death of William, Sarah inherited a large portion of the Winchester inheritance, and reportedly around $20 million plus 50% of the Winchester stock, which is like, that's a lot of money. In 1884, Sarah had moved to California, purchased a large but unfinished 2-story, 8-bedroom farmhouse, and on the property, really what began was like the world's longest renovation ever. The construction was 24/7. It never stopped. So from 1886 to 1922, the 2-story farmhouse had been turned into a 7-story Victorian giant. And the construction, like I said, never stopped during that time frame. And in 1906, there was the Great San Francisco earthquake, and it damaged the 7-story tower and most of the 4th floor, and they were later demolished because of it. Now, Sarah later did purchase a home so she could be closer with her sister and her niece. So she ended up having 2 properties later on. And in September 5th of 1922, Sarah died in her sleep inside the mansion. And 36 years of construction ceased at the news of her death. And some of the workers even left, like, screws halfway screwed in when they found out. Like, they must have been, like, sad, but, like, also relieved at the same time. Because, like, 36 years of construction. I mean, that's a lot. Now, after Sarah died, the villa was sold, and Daisy, her niece, who had lived with her for a period of time in the mansion, she inherited $3,000 from her aunt, along with all of Sarah's personal items from both properties, and the $200,000 trust fund for the remainder of her life. Now, in 1923, the property was opened to public for tours, and Sarah's old garden became the Winchester Park, where families came to enjoy picnics and, just enjoy the time outside. But later in 1960, the park was actually closed. And in 1924, Harry Houdini had visited the mansion on a Halloween night. And he went there trying to debunk, all of the stories that were told about the paranormal. And he actually ended up leaving with more questions than answers. And he referred to it as the Mystery House. Now, cool thing about this house, it is 24,000 square feet, 10,000 windows. It is said that Sarah had like a weird obsession with stained glass windows, so there's a lot of them on the property, and they're beautiful. There is one that she had made, and it has 13 dots on it. Remember that for later. 2,000 doors, one called the Door to Nowhere, which actually opens outside about 2 to 3 stories up. So if you were to open the door and walk out, you'd fall to your death, which is like crazy cool, but like crazy scary. There's 160 rooms, 52 skylights, 47 stairways, and some leading to nowhere. Like, it just goes up and then hits the ceiling and stops. There are some stairways that are as bendy as a maze. There's one stairway specifically that kind of goes like in a circle, and it goes 7 times. Remember that for later. There's 47 fireplaces, but only 17 chimneys, and there's 13 bathrooms and 6 kitchens. And I just think it is a little outrageous. That is so much space for one woman. Now, the 3 specific numbers you'll see inside the house is 7, 11, and 13. Now, those number patterns are throughout the entire house. So whether it's the stairs going around 7 times, or 13 panels on the wall, or 11 light bulbs, she was obsessed with those numbers and scattered them all throughout of the designs in the house. Some say that she was actually trying to tell us something. And if you actually look up numerology, there is some sort of science behind it. I am not going to go too much into it today, specifically just because I don't entirely understand it, so I don't feel like I should act like I do. Now, she spent $5 million back then to build this beautiful structure. That is, oh my God, that is $71 million in today's money. 71 million. Wow. Now, some say that she built the house because of her spiritual guide. She was told to seek a new home. And, carrying the burden of her losses, she wanted to find a sense of fulfillment and kind of expand her horizons. And Sarah believed in spiritualism, and she also believed that you could communicate with the deceased of her loved ones. And some say that she wanted to confuse the ghosts that haunted her, which is why she built the house such an erotic way. She assumed it to be the victims of the Winchester guns, specifically the one that won the West. It was like 1873, I think. The heart of the house, Sarah would hold nightly seances in this house, and from 12 to 2 a.m., so at 12 you'd hear 13 bells ring, at 2 you'd hear 13 bells ring. One was to start the seance, one was to end the seance, and she would communicate with the spirits that threatened to haunt her, and basically they would guide her on how to continue to shape and build her home to remain safe from all of the threats of the spirits. And she would write it down and then give it to the construction workers. Now, some say she was crazy or insane, but she was actually a very bright woman. She spoke many languages growing up, and she was a genius in mathematics and science, which is why some people say that there's actually meaning behind the numbers that she had used to build the house. Now, some of the hauntings that people tend to encounter when they're there between staff members or visitors. The house was built on ley lines. If you don't know what those are, it's kind of like a sacred, like positive energy lines around the earth. And that's why they say that she built from the middle and expanded, because the middle of the house was on like a ley line. And some say she did it on purpose. Like, some say that was the purpose of the location of the house. They do say that the construction was constant, so there is a lot of residual energy, and really just all over the house. So, like, if you start getting, like, a lot of response in one spot, it literally could just mean they're on a loop in time of just working. Now, visitors and tour guides experience cold spots. Pretty much, like, anywhere that's haunted, you'll experience those. Footsteps, cooking smells, odd sounds, whispering, doors and windows slamming shut or opening, and the feeling of being watched. Now, ever since we went to the Edinburgh, I feel like I can relate to this stuff a lot more. We didn't hear, like, footsteps or anything like that, but, like, we heard, disembodied voices.
We had a birthday party at Poland. Oh my god. Oh my god.
And I didn't feel a cold spot per se, but I felt warm on my leg, which was like uncomfortably warm because it was freezing outside and throughout the entire building.
My legs just got really warm. It's like an unsettling warm.
So I don't know. I just feel like that's kind of spooky. Now, in the hallway of fires, Sarah was known to turn up all 7 7 different sources of heat to help with her arthritis. And in that location, it's known that the doors and stuff open and close. The Witch's Cap. It's known to be one of the most haunted locations on the property, as it's told that Sarah held seances in that room. Now, if you stand in the middle of the room, there's like a little dot on the ground. And if you stand there and talk, it's like talking into a tunnel, like the way it ricochets, which is like really cool. I mean, I feel like that'd be really fun to like go experience. But yeah, so that's it for today. If I forgot anything about the house, let me know. We do plan on going there eventually. I know next year we have a lot more stuff in store, just because we did kind of start this year not as prepared as I thought we would be, which is fine. But I'm really hoping that you guys stick around at least till next year, because we have a lot in store. We are not going to the Stanley now in July, because they do not have the rooms that we want available. So we're going to postpone that a little bit later in the year. But we are going to try to shoot for the Sally House and the Villisca. So I'm really excited about that. I've always wanted to go to the Sally House and the Villisca, and I know eventually we are going to go back to the Edinburgh. We're waiting for 200 subscribers. So if you like the video, like it. If you don't like it, comment down below and tell me why. And if you like the channel, just subscribe. We appreciate all the support, and I love you guys. Peace.